the video starts, make sure you follow our socials in the description and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Welcome back to the Offbeat Podcast. Well, actually, a bit of an offbeat review today, and it is a first on the channel where I am joined by a guest, Amos Murphy. He's back again. I think this is his fifth appearance. How are you, mate?
Yeah. I'm closing in on that testimonial. What is it? 10 appearances. We get a run out. I'm looking forward to it. I'll make a list of what I want from it. A few party food. Night out, maybe. I'll make that list.
Imagine a night out. Actually, a night out would be a good shout. We could get some interesting people on that night out as well, definitely. Massive thanks for coming on and joining us today. Obviously, we are both big dart fans, so there's no one else I was going to ask apart from you, Amos, my friend.
Oh, you're sweet talking me already. Apart from your Instagram story where you were literally asking the world if anyone wanted to join.
That's why I said it. I was like, right, let's just get that in early doors. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about the most recent World Darts Championships at Ali Pali, which has just finished now. How we found the tournament?
Surprisingly enjoyed it. I felt last year, it's always weird because it happens in one year, but they class it as the next. So this year's been 2024, even though we're 3 days into 2024, 4 days in. But I found 2023, which was predominantly played in 2022, one of the best tournaments that I can remember on record. You know, it was captivating. The final was incredible. Obviously, the standout moment from that being the 9-dart showdown between Smith and Michael van Gerwen. Yeah. So that was, like you say, truly iconic. So I was going into this one thinking, yeah, it'll be decent. I remember Wade Mardell did an interview beforehand saying, trust me, this is going to be bigger and better than last year. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But no, it was great. It was really good. And again, I'm going at it. One of the best tournaments I can remember on record. We've been spoiled ever since that COVID one, which obviously felt like a bit of a damp squib. Gerwyn Price winning it, and plenty to say about that. With no fans being there, he wins his only World Championships. But other than that, I think since then it's been wonderful.
Oh, it has been. I think the talent increase has just helped it like exponentially at the moment. Like every game from round 3 onwards is very competitive, and it just highlights. Like I watch quite a lot of the PDC Tour as well, and literally you can't pick a winner because you never know who's going to win it. Like it could be kind of like a drop of the heart, like someone will just come out and just have an unbelievable day. So yeah, I agree. Like I feel that's been probably the best World Championships that I can remember. There's been shocks galore that we will get into, and obviously a worthy winner. So obviously Luke Humphries is the winner, his first ever World Championships. Deserved winner, Amos?
Yeah. In terms of the way it played out, and I think we're going to mention his name plenty, but for the first time on the show, Luke Littler, the way he went into that tournament, I think it's safe to say, into that final, I think it's safe to say Littler was probably the best player of the tournament. Humphries had numerous close shaves, sort of going back into the early rounds, survived match darts against Joe Cullen, and had to ride his luck a little bit, but you have to do that as a world champion. Whereas Littler almost like imperious from the first dart. So I think you could make the case that Littler was the better player in the tournament. But in terms of the last 3 months, even the last 12 months, Luke Humphries has sort of, ever since he didn't make the Premier League cut last year, and that would have obviously hurt both, financially, obviously as a darts player, that's sort of what you ranked on and whatever, and obviously it would have hurt just in terms of personally. But yeah, to bounce back from that, and even just sort of the 4 tournament wins from the last 5 professional sort of top end tournaments they've had. He's won 4 of them. So deserved winner. I think he was sort of going into it many people's favourite in terms of the bookies, but also a little bit of an outside shot as well. So yeah, I'm delighted from the way he spoke afterwards as well. Was lovely, touching on those mental health issues he's had. So yeah, totally deserved winner.
Agreed, yeah. I mean, I think his interview was fantastic afterwards as well. He really highlighted important points to him, and he kept it quite real as well. I mean, if you after destroying the whole world over the last 3 or 4 months, like you said, you'd think that sometimes it might go to his head, but it doesn't. He's ready for the Premier League, and he did say that in his interview as well afterwards. He said, actually, getting left out of the Premier League was kind of the perfect thing for him. I just want him to get a new walkout song.
Oh my God, please.
So many good songs out there, isn't there? And to come out of Cape by the Ocean, I'm like, come on. Like, I don't understand that's probably like his favourite song. Maybe him and Well, it's one of the Jonas Brothers who's lead singer in it. So maybe he's a big fan of camp rock growing up. I never know. But
he wasn't.
He wasn't. But I'm just saying, like, what is happening? Like,
did you see that tweet from? I think it's a fellow called Tom Tanner on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. There are 97 million songs in the world, 123,000 are released every day, and Luke Humphries still chose "Cake by the Fucking Ocean" as his walk-on song. I mean, 100%. It sums it up.
It just doesn't get the crowd going as much. But if that's his prerogative, and he's the world champion, he's going to say, I would be my big prediction for the Premier League. Without a shadow of doubt, he's changing his walkout song. I think Sky are going to come over and say, "Look, we need to change it." I'm certain of it.
That's him, though, isn't it? And I mean, it happens obviously, but how often do we see players change their walkout songs, especially when he's just won the World Championship with it? Now, obviously, everyone's different, but personally, I'd be a bit superstitious about that. I'd be like, unless he wants to turn over a new leaf, and perhaps. But yeah, I think it adds to his personality, isn't it? He's the sort of. You have these abrasive characters in darts, the big sort of macho fellas, and he is a little bit of a not a sheepish character.
Quite timid, isn't he? He is
exactly.
Quite timid, quite reserved.
Yeah, definitely, and that's not to his detriment at all. I think he's a lovely lad, but I personally would change it, but I don't know if he will.
Yeah, just getting a crowd going, definitely. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Littler as well. I mean, how have you not seen Luke Littler's face? I was talking in work to a couple of people in work, people who don't even like darts, that never watched a game in their life. They know who Luke Littler is. He is absolutely. Done a bit for you as well on TikTok, Annie, with your little video on Luke Littler has gone
cashing in. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so how have you found him sort of coming out of the woodwork and just taking the world by storm?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think anyone who's followed darts will have known of his name probably the last 12 months really starting to come to fruition, and obviously making the World Championships, which was incredible, but it felt maybe not a token sort of appearance, because he was tipped to win a game at least, but nobody would have imagined him getting to the quarterfinal, let alone the semi, let alone the final. So it is. I mean, I personally think had he won, it'd have been. Now, I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but I think it'd have been a top 3 greatest sporting achievement of all time. And obviously there'll be sports around the world where incredible stuff has happened. I won't be able to tell you who the youngest ever Super Bowl winning quarterback is. Whatever. Everyone can make the case for their individual sport, but just the fact that darts is a solo sport, and yes. I've seen some people sort of say, well, why would it? Because getting older or getting fitter doesn't necessarily make you a better darts player. But I don't think any of us can truly comprehend the pressure of standing on the Alexandra Palace stage. To do it at 16, having had a chunk of experience, but in terms of going up against the glitz and the glam, he beat a world champion. It was incredible to get to the final. So, yeah, I mean, unbelievable story. We sort of ran out of superlatives for it now. I just hope he has the right people around him, because that's a big high. And unless he goes on to win, on a tear, and he gets into the sort of the big tournaments come the summer, on the Pro Tour as well, that's going to be a crash down. He's going to come down from that, and I hope he has the right people around him. But I guess the Premier League is a pretty decent place to start for him.
Oh, it definitely is. And I mean, well, he's now got that experience of Alexandra Palace now under his belt. He's only going to go from strength to strength, you would think. I mean, he's been around the circuit for a long time, especially he's dominated the junior development, so just destroyed.
I bet they'll be glad to get rid of him. That's the thing.
They are, definitely. Especially when top 2 end up getting a tour card. I bet they're looking at him going, thinking, oh, thank God for that. I'm happy he's gone. I think the other lad who got a tour card, Wesley Placier, is that how you pronounce it? Placier? He's had a good year as well, and he's looked very, very good. So I bet they're happy to get both of them gone. I mean, he's just beating champions left, right, and centre. Like, obviously, you've got Van Barneveld, who was world champion, but even still, you've got BDO champions in there. You've got PDC events. I mean, Brendan Dolan's been there for 15 years. I think he's had a tour card for. He's won so many tournaments. It's a joke. Christian Kiss, I think he was a BDO world champion as well. He beat him first. Like, he's not beating slouches, and he didn't have an easy route.
that's what struck me really, especially in those sort of Van Barneveld, Dolan cross matches, was just how stunned those darts players looked. And yes, you could make comparisons to Rob Cross and Luke Littler in terms of being on debut, going all the way. It does happen. But Rob Cross had been playing darts probably for Luke Littler's lifetime before he made it to that point where he won the World Championships in 2018. They just looked they looked like they cacked themselves, basically, for want of a better term. They just looked like they were frozen. They were so scared. They didn't know what to do with this lad. And I made the joke that the board must have magnets in it to his darts, because there was times in those matches where his precision, specifically on those massive ton plus checkouts, was incredible. He's taken them out for fun. And you look at an MVG or a Gerwin Price or whoever it might be when they're taking ton plus checkouts and going, that's incredible. But for him to do that, given the situation, given his age and experience, it was doubly impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the one that always sticks out in my mind is when he split that finish. When he split the 36 finish, and I was like, what balls he has. What balls he has. But he played his game all the way through. Mardo kept mentioning it on commentary as well. Like, he's going to play his own game. And even when he lost the first set, he looked on the ropes. He was averaging 84. He was really shaking. He's still coming out. He's still trying bull 42. Like, he's still trying everything. And I really appreciate that. I want to talk about the game of the tournament as well. Do you think that final was a game of the tournament, or was there any other games that sort of stood out for you?
I think it's got a chance of being up there for game of the tournament, and I'm glad that, in a way, I sort of full disclosure, I wanted Luke Humphries to win, because as good as the Luke Littler story would have been, I feel like Humphries has deserved that opportunity. He's obviously been there or thereabouts over the last few years, but he's really kicked on and is a deserved world number one alongside world champion. But I didn't want it to be a 7-1. I didn't want it to be a 7-2. I was hoping for a contest, and that, for me, the final delivered a match befitting of the tournament as a whole, and that's what you always want to see. Going back years ago, I think there was a Phil Taylor 7-0 in there at one point, and that's great, and it goes to show the talent. But you don't really want to see a final decided like that. But for me, I actually think the game of the tournament involved Luke Humphries, but it was the one against Joe Cullen for probably all the wrong reasons, in the sense that it was just all over the place. It looked like you'd stumbled into a local pub and you'd just seen two dads who had been on the beer all afternoon over Christmas. Yeah, go on, shove a game of 501. And I think some of the doubles they were hitting at the end was ridiculous, winning sets on double 2 or whatever it might have been. So yeah, I think for me that was one where I was. My poor girlfriend, we were watching it in the living room, and I was going apoplectic. I was off my head, just making bizarre noises. So yeah, I think for me that probably nips it.
Yeah, it was an absolute class game. Like, from you can't say end to end, can you? But literally, it was 4-3 in the end, wasn't it? And I know Cullen was probably coming away with a little bit of regret there. But at the end of the day, it happens, doesn't it, in sports like that? Sometimes the darts will go in, sometimes they won't, and it's just one of them. It's a game of millimeters. But for me, I think Dolby versus Cross was my highlight.
Yeah, that's the other one.
I was watching this, so also my girlfriend, I've watched majority of my tournament with her. She hates sports, and she hates the sports that I like. But darts has been a revelation.
Oh, there we go.
She has been making comments like, "Oh, he's not as good as him. We watched him run better last night." And at one point, Littler took out a 1-4-2, and she went, "Oh my God!" And I looked at her and went, "You appreciate how hard that is?" And I was like, "This is great."
I love that.
The Dolby versus Cross game, it was class. I mean, Dolby going 4-0 up, he looked like it was possibly going to be one of the greatest darts performances of all time. He was not missing, and then Cross just stuck in there. He was dogged. He was averaging 100 all the way through, and then he just turned on the class at the end. So for me, I thought it was great, and to be fair, I think they were both deserving of getting as far as they did in the tournament.
Yeah. I made a comment on Twitter, but that game, that comeback from Rob Cross was the best resurrection from off a cross since Jesus Christ on Easter Sunday. So yeah, make of that what you will. As well, that same day, Michael van Gerwen versus Scott Williams, and darts is all about personality, so I don't think I'm going to get in much trouble saying this. I don't particularly like Scott Williams. He's not one of my favourite players, but the fact that he just sort of dispatched Michael van Gerwen like that, I'm just looking through now, going back. Even sort of seeing Van Barneveld winning 4-1 in matches is always nice. Anderson Dolan as well, kicking off sort of that round was good. I think that was an evening session, one of the first matches before Littler, Van Barneveld. So yeah, there's been some brilliant matches. I think the interesting part is that, you're looking at the later rounds and the absence of Michael Smith, the absence of Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright. These fellas who have sort of been there and done it and won world championships, and everyone's tipping them to go and do it again. Few of them made it past Christmas, which was really interesting.
It's mental. The disappointments were flying in from there. I mean, I had a few stats where there was 11 seeded players who didn't make it out of round 3. 11.
Wow.
And 3 of the seed and 3 of the top 8 didn't even make it past.
Jeez.
Didn't even make it to round 3. So it was Wright, Aspinall and Noppert all got knocked out, which was big disappointments, especially on the Asp. I mean, I'm a big fan of Aspinall. Obviously, we're both. Well, you're from Stockport. I'm from in and around sort of Stockport. Like everybody knows.
You can't be clinging on to it now. You can't be clinging on to it now.
Everybody knows someone who knows Aspinall. He's one of them. He's a very big character. Like a lot of the lads I work with went to school with him or seen him down Hazel Grove in the pub and kind of in the snooker club. He's here, there, and everywhere. And to see him get dispatched so easily, I was very disappointed. Same with Wright and Noppert. Like Noppert needs that big tournament. He's been in here or there ages. He obviously won the UK Open, but since then he's not really kicked on. But yeah, out of the disappointments for me, I've got to say, some of the seeded players getting knocked out so early, I was like, what's happening here? Did you have any sort of like big shocks? Was there any like score lines or defeats that was kind of really shocking for you?
Apart from the usual Gerwyn Price going out, Michael Smith going out, I guess going back before Christmas, and I'll just pull up the stats right away now, so I don't have egg on my face, but Peter Wright, and I don't know if it's necessarily a shock anymore, because I think he is, he's still one of the best players in the world, don't get us wrong, but the fact that so 20th of December, so it was right early on in the tournament, 3-0 against Jim Williams, he's sent packing. And I just wonder, and I know we'll speak about the Premier League and some thoughts on that already, but I just wonder if this is sort of the changing of the guards a little bit. And obviously, Luke Littler's come through and there's some great talents. He looked out of sorts. And maybe it's a personal problem, I don't know, but you would expect Peter Wright to get past. Jim Williams is a class player. He's sort of been there or thereabouts again. But that was a major disappointment. Not that I thought he necessarily could go on and win it. But yeah, weird one. And I guess sort of maybe even Josh Rock, although that might be a little bit harsh. He was the original breakout teen a couple of years ago, obviously. And I know he's had a bit of a rough year and hopefully he can find his form again. But possibly expect a little bit more from him. I don't know. But yeah, the big names going out, it's remarkable just looking back through it now. And I think it kind of made the tournament better.
I think so as well. It definitely made the tournament better. It was exciting. It was shocks left, right, and centre. The biggest disappointment for me was Big Bunting getting 4-0s for MVG. He is. It annoys me when you watch a tournament like a darts tournament, like a tennis tournament, for example, where not an underdog, but a player comes out and is on fire for the first few rounds, and then they flunk out so easily. Like they couldn't sit.
Can you call that a disappointment against MVG? Because anyone in the world could get 4-0'd.
True. It's the disappointment of his performance with Bunting. He was averaging 100 to 110 easily every game before that. He was dismantling people, and then to average like 80 odd against Van Gerwen, you're going to get battered. And especially because obviously he's an internet sensation at the moment. Everybody loves it. Let's go Bunny mental and everything.
Yeah.
He's a character on TikTok and Twitter, and he had the crowd behind him, and the crowd could have really kicked on. And I think it's what's ultimately made him miss out on the Premier League. I know we're going to get to it again, but it's
just quickly on Bunting. Do you think had he got through? And it's easy to say had he got through that MVG match, but do you think he could have won it? That the game would have been Humphries versus Bunting, probably semi-final. Had he got past Scott Williams, do you think he would have been able to then go and win it?
I think he had a surefire route to at least the semis, and I think with a crowd behind him, he could have gone on to win that. It's such a good opportunity he had to sort of really kick on. I also just love the fact that he throws 16-gram darts, which are just so light. And you can see, I've never seen someone throw a dart as aggressively as him. That's why he likes to like that, because he wings it in. I'm like, go on, lad. But yeah, I bet they were the ones that really, and Gerwyn Price again, him losing out to Brendan Dolan. Brendan Dolan's obviously a stalwart professional. He's been around, but I thought this was Gerwyn's year. He was my pick to win it at the start, and to see him get beaten fairly easily, where
humbled,
he looked out the source. I thought that was a disappointment. I don't know about you, Amos.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of as good as Van Gerwen has always been, and will go down as one of the greats. There are these spells every now and again. He goes through cycles almost where he looks untouchable, and then suddenly just has this collapse. And it's funny. I can't remember exactly what day it was, but the day he got knocked out, I sent a message in one of my various group chats saying Van Gerwen's in the groove here. He could go and win it without dropping a set as in the tournament, let alone the match. And then obviously he crashes out to Scott Williams in sort of quite embarrassing fashion, really. Obviously, he couldn't buy a double. I think his percentages were sort of like towards 20 in the end. But yeah, and last shout out, I guess, of the World Championships, because it was a great tournament. But good old Chizzy. It was lovely to see him sort of back in the quarterfinals. I know he's pretty much done everything bar win the World Championship, so it was a shame to see him not. Well, I guess unless you Luke Humphries and anyone who wanted him to win, but it would have been nice to see him maybe tick that one off. But yeah, he was in good form, and who knows in the years to come. But he's probably towards the latter end of his career, to put it politely, as opposed to some of these new guys coming through. So maybe that was his last real chance. But yeah, he certainly played well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's always been up and down. He's very, very solid when he's on the PDC torches. He's probably the most consistent player in World Darts when you get to getting the tour card. Like, he's very, very good at winning them smaller tournaments, and just struggles on TV. I don't know if it's a stage thing, maybe it's a presence thing, maybe it's just maybe other people up their game. You never know, do you? He's also got a great walkout song. I mean, he's another one where it's a band. Yeah. But also, one last shout I wanted to make as well: the German fans. Oh they're incredible! God. They made a tournament, didn't they?
Yeah. It was ace. Obviously, we've become accustomed to the chants coming through the TV, the Yaya Kolo Torre chants, "Don't take me home," etc. And you know what it is, but you just you hear those tunes coming through, and you're like, wait a minute, what's that? I've not heard that before, and it's this sort of orchestrated, almost like the ultras in the football, bouncing up and down. They love it, and I think as well what. In terms of the impact of the tournament, I know it's grown exponentially over the last couple of years, and it's on a high again. But it is great to see the World Championships being so worldly represented, and not only in terms of the players but the fans as well. I don't think the conversations about moving it away from the Ali Pali are going to die down, because it is a global sport now, and I don't know where I fall on that, because you almost feel like it is now synonymous, but in the same time, it hasn't always been the Ali Pali, so maybe there's room for evolution there. Even if it did 1 year in London, 1 year elsewhere, maybe that'd be a way to grow the sport. It'd be interesting to see how the PDC tackle that, because they have to have commercial viability at the front of their minds. They won't survive without the big TV deals and the sponsorship. So maybe that is something to look at. I won't be surprised, say, in a couple of years' time, if we're seeing a World Championships coming from Germany, because they absolutely love it. It's just a shame the German lads didn't really perform to expectation. A couple of damp exits.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was a bit of a shame for them. They're very behind the lads. Obviously, you've got like the Schindlers. You've got obviously coming through Pietro, coming out to Pokemon, like, love it. Again, love it. But I just wanted to end up on the Premier League. So the Premier League was announced. It was announced an hour and a half ago from our time that we were recording this. Obviously, you've got the top 4 who automatically get their place in there via the ranking system, which is Luke Humphries, Michael Van Gerwen, Michael Smith, and Nathan Aspinall. The match play has saved Aspinall.
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
I think it was £250 he was in by. 250, which is
just above a price.
Yeah, and then obviously you have the 4 sort of wild card picks, if you call them, from both PDC and Sky. I think mainly Sky have the say out of the 4. I won't lie to you. But we've got Gerwin Price, we've got Rob Cross, Peter Wright, and then Luke Little ended in. First thoughts on the Premier League lineup?
Interesting. I think on the whole, it is one that you can probably... It's easy to sort of look at the Premier League because it obviously happens the day after the World Championship final and you're clouded by that judgment and you're looking at it and maybe Peter Wright's fallen victim to this in this sense where... Because I don't think he necessarily should have been in there. I think he's had a pretty dismal sort of time of things and it would have been nice to maybe see that spot go to someone else. However funny and incredible and hilarious his walkout is, anyone who's been to the Premier League will know him dancing up and down the stage is one of the highlights of the night. But I think on the whole, they got most of it right. I think Little is an interesting one because it feels almost wrong to call him a teenager because in professional sporting sense, you say, a teenage prodigy, you're thinking 18, 19 years old, something along those lines. Luke Little is, say how it is, he's a child. He's now going to be, and he's now going to be up and down the country across Europe playing in front of a TV camera every week. And I think that's, again, going back to that's probably a Sky pick because he is he's captured the hearts of the sporting world in a sense, but I do wonder just how intense that could be for him because what were we doing at 16? We weren't playing professional sports on Sky Sports every week. The pressure's going to be a lot, and I hope, fingers crossed, he goes on and smashes it and goes on to win the multiple world championships that people are prophesying him to go and do. But I do fear that this is a really big lead to start off with, and it could come crashing down if he's not careful.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we'll know after the second event, which I think the second one is in Germany. I think that's when we'll know sort of how he is sort of coping with all this because he's still he must be in college, so he's presumably still doing his studies. Like you never know, do you? But I would have had a little.
Do you think he'll do an apprenticeship down the local garage on his off?
I mean, you've got people like Cameron Menzies who still he tweeted today saying he's back to the block toilets, and I thought, here we go, back to real life we go. But I would have had a Little in there for me. I feel like Little and Price were the 2 guarantees.
Yeah.
For me, I wouldn't have had Wright. I'd have had Dolby in there. I think Dolby's had a stellar sort of enter 2023, enter the dark season, going into obviously the Premier League. I'd have had Dolby in there. Bunting was a shout out, but if Bunting would have got further, he would have definitely been a shoo-in in there. I think Rob Cross did deserve it in the end though, because he's pulled out very good performances. Might not be as big of a personality as the other 2 names that I've mentioned, but for consistency wise, if you want someone to throw a 100 average, you put Rob Cross in there definitely. So for me, it's a good Premier League. I'm looking forward to it. I've been offered tickets. A group of lads messaged me today trying to get me to go with them to the Manchester second series still available. So I'm probably going to end up there. I went last year. Have you been to the darts before, Ross? You went to the match play, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to match play. Been to the Premier League before. Just got to tick off the World Championships. I might go to the Bahrain one in a couple of weeks. I have a funny feeling it isn't quite the same out in Bahrain as it is in Ali Pali and up and down the country in the Premier League.
Well, as a journalist, mate, all you need to do, write a review over it, and it's a tax expense. And Here we go. Fantastic. Massive thanks for joining me. Just shout out your socials again one final time so people know where to find you, mate.
Yeah, of course. Talking sports, mainly football, but also darts, cricket as well. All sorts. Amos Murphy _ all social media: TikTok, Instagram, X/Twitter. I think that's it. But really appreciate it. Anytime.
No, massive thanks for coming on. Also, we will shout out, we are both members of the City Report podcast. Amos is the host, and co-founder of that. Booker will be happy if I said founder. So make sure you do also check us out on the City Report podcast. All links are going to be in the description. If you are watching this on YouTube and you have enjoyed, you want to see some more darts content from Offbeat, make sure you let me know in the comments down below or message me on social media. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and if you're listening on Spotify, 5-star review pushes it out as far as it possibly can go. But mate, thank you very much. See you in the next one.